Hi, my name is Kobah Koate. I want to use this opportunity to say thank you to the field conference team, particularly to Fatima Al Hassan for the follow-up, for the consistent follow-up, and for ensuring that this video comes out, reaches out to everybody. I want to say a very big thank you, and of course for having me amongst, many other speakers you had for this conference. That said, I'm going to be addressing just one thing. I'm going to be addressing the concept of failure with respect to one, life, then two, are coming from the point of finances. As my usual culture is, I'll tell you a story, but before then, I'd like you to understand what the English dictionary calls failure. The English dictionary calls failure as lack of success. The same dictionary defines success as one's ability to achieve an aim or to meet a purpose. In other words, if you don't meet a purpose, if you don't achieve an aim, it's assumed that you failed. Why that's not the perfect definition? It works. And yes, it works. But then, this is how I want you to see failure. I want you to see failure as that person who comes around trying, and after many tries, chooses to quit. At that point, in my own words, indirectly, I'll say that's failure. But many other times, this is how we see failure. We see failure as the many trials we put together. You try, then it's not working, then you just assume it has failed. No, you didn't fail, you only try. You fail the moment you give up on the many failures from the trials or the many non-successes from your trials. That's where failure is. That being said, I'll just share a quick story with you, and I hope it helps you. Well, I'm going to share a story. I'm going to share the story with, particularly from the concept or from the perspective of finances. Basically, that's why we run businesses. People are in business to make profits. That's why we run organizations. That's why we wake up every day with the drive, passion, zeal, whatever you choose to call it, to reach out to the world. Yeah? Because at the end of the day, we're making money, we're putting it back into business, we're growing our business, we're putting it in family, you're paying bills, whatever it is you're doing with money. So money plays a very critical and of course a very strategic and important role in our lives. Let me tell you the story quickly. One of those days, I already had everything figured out. I knew that, if I get 10 million naira today, this is where I'm going to head to. This is what I need to do. This is how I'm going to do it. And then I kept pushing. I kept working. I kept doing all I needed to do. And guess what? 10 million came. 10 million didn't just come. At this point, my business had grown. So the 10 million came for the first time. And then subsequently, money started coming in. And then something struck. Something struck. And this is where most entrepreneurs make mistakes. This is where most people make mistakes with money. Many times you're looking for a funder, you're looking for an investor, you're looking for where to raise money, partnerships. What you need is going to be in the sum of, say, 5 million naira. Part of wisdom for finances is the moment you get the 5 million naira, you don't need any extra money. The reason is that what you've planned around that money is 5 million. If for any reason you take 10 million, you begin to struggle in business because the other 5 million that you didn't plan for, particularly if you don't have any other project to immediately put that 5 million into, becomes a liability over time. How? You spend it. You buy good clothes. You just subconsciously take a little here, a little there, a little here, a little there. Over time, the money is finished. Guess what happens next? You place demand on the original 5 million which you needed. You need that 5 million to work out the extra 5 million you ate. So you put the whole financial burden on one side of the money, but the other side that got wasted, that little here, little there, right? This side has to pay for it. Particularly, it happened to me. So while that money came, I didn't have any other thing to do with money, but excess money came because business went fine. Like, isn't that what we pray for? We pray for business to go well. We pray for our lives to get better. We pray for more money, particularly. Of course, don't look at me that way. I know you prayed for extra money this morning. We all do. We all do. Like we say in Nigeria, problem nearly finish. So like we all do. Anyway, so when the money came, I realized I didn't have anything for the extra. And guess what? Just like you're asking, you're trusting for 10 million, like I was. And then 10 million didn't just come, 20 didn't come, 30 didn't come. It came in about 500% times, like 50. Big question, what do you do with the remaining 30? Part of what I started doing, I started reaching out to people like widows, orphans. I was just sending money out. Like I didn't have so much use for them. But then, bam, it struck. He said, this money doesn't come every day. How did I work that out? I took out time. I took out time to particularly find some way to invest this money into. I realized that if I don't tie this money down, it's going to waste. And guess what? In the next 3-4 months, or maybe 1 year, you're going to be trusting God, calling investors again, praying, doing all sort of what you need to do to ensure that you get more money. Why did I count that as a failure? Because I literally ended up losing most of those investments. How? I rushed into investment just to tie money down. So I didn't make out time to study what those investments were literally about. I didn't make out time to know if those investments were going to be successful, if they were suiting to me. But I just pumped in money because I needed to put money somewhere so it doesn't waste. I didn't waste the money. The investment did. It went bad. Like bad. Part of what I want you to get from this teaching or from this story is that as young people, we always plan. You're planning 10 times ahead, or you're planning that, oh, once this thing comes, this is the next move I'm making. All your strategies are in place. I like to encourage you, go ahead, go further. If what you're expecting, let me stay within the context of finances, right? If what you're planning for is 10 million, I'll encourage you to rather plan for 30, 40. You need 10 million, right? Nonetheless, if 30 comes, you have something on ground to exhaust it with. Because many times when your business begins to grow, when your life begins to get better, when people particularly begin to see that you're making progress, you're getting results, right? They want to pump their stuff into you. They want to associate with you. They want to partner with you. Those same people who told you they didn't have money want to tell you that, hey, we have money. How do we invest with what you do? And that way you realize that excess money is coming. If you don't have plans for them, you're likely going to lose everything. So what I want to encourage you today with this story particularly is that, one, keep your plans 10 times ahead. I used to have a mentor who told me, he said, before you buy your first car, ensure you have that money 10 times of it. I didn't understand why. One day I needed to know, so I sat back thinking, and of course, I got my own answers and I needed to reach him. So one day I decided to reach him. I wanted to know, why did you give us that advice as young people? Simple. He said, because if you get $1 million, for example, today, and you use $1 million to buy a car, whatever happens to that car is parked because you don't have money elsewhere to put that car in order. But if you have 10 times of the money for that car, and the car worth $1 million is bad, and you have 10 million in your account, you can literally replace that car with an entire new one. Or worst case or best case, you can fix every of the part that got bad. It changed my perspective then. I wasn't in a haste to buy a car. I was never. Yeah, one of those young people who I've never been in a haste to buy a car. I'm not in a haste to build a house. Particularly, I'm always particular or interested in building business. I believe, I know, the same way you know, that the more money that comes in, the more you can afford what you want to afford. The more money that comes in, the more you can build to get the kind of business you want to get. The same thing applies with this money. If you don't put your money to use, if you don't plan it, the more money that comes to your hand, the more likely you waste them. Am I contradicting? No, I am not. I'm making the same point you're getting. Yeah, I figure you're nodding your head right now. You feel like, That's how it is. You literally waste those money. I failed in that aspect. And then eventually I started picking up again. But this time I have over a list of 100 projects to put money in per time. For example, if someone calls me up now and say, hey, I have 5 million naira, I'm not using, I know exactly what to put it into. If someone calls me and say, hey, there's $100 million somewhere we're not using, I know exactly what to do with it. Kobah, how do you do that? Well, that's what I do. Think. I wake up every day, I look out for it, I go do researches, I find businesses that will thrive, I find businesses that are not doing well, I find reasons why those businesses are not doing well. So if you give me money today, I know in every industry what to put monies into. I mean, this is not particularly saying I have 100 of them, but I have a list of businesses, ideas, projects to pump money into. This is to tell you that the next time money comes to me the way it did in my early days, I mean, it's not like I'm way grown past that stage now anyway, but that was a very big financial failure for me. It took me time trusting, it took me time trying to get investors again, it took me time trying to convince people that this one will be better, it took me time trying to convince myself that I'm better at what I do. Because the first place you fail is with you. The moment you fail with you, you're gone. But hey, let me also say that failure is not as bad as society has made it look. The moment you add shame and stigma to your trials, it becomes as bad as society wants it to be. You should get up some days, do some things that didn't work, and yet you should buy yourself a Coke and say, oh, I tried. You should get yourself a bottle of water and say, wow, for a work well done today. You should be at that state. That state of mind is where success comes from. If for everything you do that doesn't work well, you feel like you failed, hey, you will hardly be successful. Like you hardly look at yourself and feel proud about yourself. One of the things you must do every day, you must look at the mirror and tell yourself that, hey man, I'm doing well. You must pat yourself. You must pat yourself at your back and say, look, I'm doing well. You must look straight to the mirror and say, look, man, you're not where you used to be 10 years ago. Oh, we just lost $1 million. Oh, this one just failed. Oh, that project didn't run. You're doing well, sir. You're doing well, man. You must consistently, persistently tell yourself that. Always. That's the only way to win. Otherwise, the moment you feel like, oh, this project didn't go well, first thing that comes to you is that feeling that you're not good enough. Second thing that comes to you is that feeling that you've never done anything good. And then the third thing that happened is that you begin to look at people who seemingly are making progress, and then you begin to envy them. You begin to feel like, God, I'm not good enough indeed. And the moment you begin to find those negative feelings with yourself, life has a way of suppressing you with more. And over time, you realize that that guy used to be very hardworking. Oh, that guy has been indoors. Oh, we've not heard of him again. Then suddenly you fade off. So, like I was saying, failure in itself is not a bad thing. I see failure, or I rather see them as trials, as long as you don't give up, right? Or I see those negative results, those unsuccessful results you get as major stones, yardsticks, major growth patterns to wherever you're going to. Two things happen always. You either win, right? Or you learn. Oh yeah, you grew up with those old days adages, right? That you either win or you lose. No, you never lose. You learn something new. You learn how not to do it next time. I mean, think of it. Try 1,000 ways to write a project or to do a project. If one fails, the reason you're not doing it that exact way is because you learned that this is why it didn't work. Then you try something new. In that case, you realize that you've tried like 1,000 times. At the end of the day, you have 1,000 ways how not to do it. So hey, you can literally sit down, just like Fatima Al Hassan and her team sat down to look at it and say, no, people are failing. How do we help these people? You can literally sit down and put 1,000 ways how not to turn the cup black. Are we communicating? Of course we should be communicating. I'm sure you're enjoying yourself already. I'm sure there's a part of you that's feeling like you, after all, I didn't fail. No, you didn't fail. I don't believe humans fail. I believe we have our hard times. I believe we have trials. I believe we have our tough days. I believe we have our rough days. I believe we have the days when everything just seems not to be smooth. Everything goes off, goes upward. At the same time, I believe if you hold on a little, if you stay in the right company, at the same time, I believe if you read more, if you take a little more stretch, at the same time, I believe if you discipline yourself to a kind of perspective or a perception of life, you scale through. Nothing beats any man except the man allows that thing to beat him down. So with respect to my failure, well, that's where I failed with my finances. It took me years to stand up again. It took me years. And many times it looks like the devil, or it looks like life is just waiting for you to mess up. Then it strikes you totally. But hey, it's only those who decide not to fail that don't fail. Don't ever tell yourself you fail. Don't ever look at yourself as a failure. Don't ever let society tell you who you are. Because part of what society does subconsciously is push those things that failed to you and remind you that you failed. But no, you didn't. You tried. You keep trying. You try again, you go again, and again, till you win. Well, that's that. So the second part of what I'm going to put up right now, or I'm going to be telling you again, still on the concept of failing, it's how do you pick up from where you fail? I know you have those kind of questions. How do you reinvent that thing that you look like you fail? It's very simple. I'll address this from 2 points. I'll address this from the point of the military, strategy and plan. Strategy is originally a military word. I think from the Greek word strategios. Strategios, permit me, I'm not a Greek man. But well, that's where it originates from, and it's actually a military term. Many times the plan, right, is you want to hit 10 figures by the end of the year. What strategy does for you, and this is where I want you to put it in every aspect where you think you've done something, you've tried and it failed. What strategy is that it helps you eliminate the possible reasons why you won't achieve that thing. For example, my target, my target is reaching out to 1,000 children. Now that's a target, or that's a plan. I plan on reaching out to 1,000 children with an ideology, with financial lectures, with programming lectures, with whatever will help them. What's the possible reason this will not work? That's where strategy comes in. You begin to analyze what's the possible reason this thing will not fail. Spending the time on others, that's one. What's the possible reason I won't reach out to 1,000 children? Having people I didn't plan for come to take my time, that's two. So those things I'm thinking about are the things I begin to master how to eliminate. When you fail, when you try and it didn't work, what's the possible reason it didn't work? The moment you can find the possible reason it didn't work, that's one of the things to either eliminate or to reinvent. You get my picture, or you get what I'm saying? How else do I present this? You're going to read a book, maybe one book a week. What's the possible reason you won't read that book? Your friends will come visiting and they'll gist you. What's the possible reason? Your PS5 is there. What's the possible reason? Oh, there's an entertainment show you're going to be watching. Those things that will hinder you from achieving reading a book are actually the strategic point. Those are the things you need to tackle. So what's best to do? Tell your friends, if you want to come to the house, let me know. I'll let you know if I'm available. What's best to do? Close your PS5, pack it, put it back in the box, send it somewhere. What's best to do? Turn off your television, tell yourself no entertainment today. What's best to do? That's best to do. So when you fail, when you try and feel like it doesn't work, how do you come back? How do you make the failed project work? It's by looking at the reason why it failed. It's by learning from the mistakes you made. It's by looking at the foundation to see what didn't stand well. Again, strategy, plan, or targets, like I always prefer to call them, but you must strategize. You must look at the reason why you fail and plan how not to fail again. And if you fail again, you look at the reason why the first failure and the second failure were there. If it is the same thing that made the first fail that made the second fail, it obviously means you didn't learn the thing, or you did something the same way. You can't keep doing things the same way and hope to get different results. It doesn't work anywhere. It doesn't work anywhere. Even for your 1-year-old, it doesn't work. If you want different results, you must go with different approaches. So for every time you fail, for every time you try and it didn't work, one, find the reason why it didn't work and do some eliminations. Take those factors that makes it not to work off. If you can manage it, fine. If you can reinvent, you can reorder it, fine. But at this point, at every point when it looks like it's getting tough, find that one thing to eliminate by using that strategy I just told you. What's the reason we're going to win the war? If we come in from here, they'll get us. So we are not coming in from here. What's the reason we're going to win the soccer game? How are we going to win the soccer game? Or how are we not going to win the soccer game? If we don't score 2 goals, they'll win us. The strategy there is scoring more than 2 goals. I'm sure this has educated you. I'm sure this has encouraged you. I'm sure this has, what other word should I use? Motivated you. Well, it's good to be on this platform. I apologize I couldn't be at the conference live. I have other events scheduled for me. Within Lagos, the West here, yes. And then I'm very excited to be sending this video across. I'm very excited that you're listening to me. More importantly, I'm excited that wherever you're seated, you're making notes or you've made your notes. It works, particularly because you're not going to make the same mistakes again. You're not going to feel like it's not going to work. It always works. It always works. Thank you so much. Again, Fatima Al Hassan and the team that set up the Field Conference. I really appreciate you inviting me, believing that I have something to say, and of course, making me share this story I've never shared anywhere before. I really appreciate. I sincerely do appreciate. Thank you again. And hey, everyone in this conference, have a great time. Learn from everybody as much as you can. No knowledge is wasted. Thank you.